Hey, this is Gene. I'm just laying here watching found footage movies, trying to take my mind off of what's going on. Um, Apparently, we have a picture of the person that apparently did it. I mean, we've had different different people actually saying this was the perpetrator, but they keep releasing these people. It's strange to me though because I mean that first guy that they got, probably a guy at my age, maybe a little bit later, older than me. Why was he acting so crazy during that whole thing? But anyway, um, I'm just going back at some of all the different debates that Charlie had, and uh, I just wonder now. I mean, when we had the real assassinations in my lifetime or around my lifetime, as I said before in my videos, before I wasn't alive when JFK was shot. I wasn't. I was 3 years old when Bobby and Martin Luther King got shot. I was around when Reagan got shot. I remember that. And there have been other smaller levels of political assassinations or attempted assassinations. The shooter at the ball game or the softball game where Scalise almost got killed. Um, I, it's just it's very very hard for me today, and I know a lot of people are already doing this. A lot of people on social media talking about how it's really impacted them. I'm thinking about the legacy of Charlie Kirk. Kirk. Um, I know. I mean, he had so much in front of him. The potential that he had, that he could have been a real biblical president that put God first in everything. I'm worried that that's what it was that killed him. That he was starting to question things. Um, you have to look it up. I mean, the people on here. I mean, I got people get upset with me because I called out Nick Fuentes, called me a boomer, saying that I just don't understand what I'm talking about. That I somewhat support pedophilia because I think that Nick was just being a bit harsh on Matt Walsh. I've been for 10 years. I've been supporting Nick Fuentes. Um, but the interesting thing about Nick is that Nick is saying shit that I said before he ever said it. I never had the obviously had the charisma or the intellect that he has. I mean, obviously, when I started my YouTube career, if you call it that, I have almost 700 subscribers. Um, I was just coming off a stroke, so I just used it for therapy for me to be able to talk and listen to myself and watch the words. Because when you're watching, my iPad here, I can actually see my voice or my lips moving, and this was something I used to get better at talking. Because before that, I wouldn't say that I was at the same level as Nick, but I was pretty close. I was a very good speaker. I had done a lot of engagements. I was always when I went to the different schools that we had in the military, I would win the speech of the year and all that stuff. I'm pretty good at that. I don't claim to have the same intellect that Nick has. Before the stroke, I probably would have been. I could stay with him probably on a lot of issues. I mean, he clearly has a high IQ. I mean, mine's like 138. It's not like that after the stroke though, and that's the weird thing that people don't really tell you. If you have a stroke and then you take the IQ tests, I lost like 15 points. It's like because my brain can't do things that would have been normal. Let's say it takes me longer to get around things. It's hard for me to even talk. Everything I say, I almost have to hear it before I say it. Before that, and if people who've never had a stroke or anything that has any brain issues, do you ever think about what you're actually saying? I mean, it just comes out. You're not really thinking about it, right? You don't have to be able to form the words, and that's why it's hard for me sometimes to say certain words. Um, but it's a great. My brain, when you think about it, I couldn't speak at all. I couldn't write at all, and I couldn't read at all for at least 3 months. The reading is back, but I can't just continually read. I can't look at a script and try to, for a video, just put like a video in front of me or a script in front of me and read it. It's just hard for me because it's hard for me to read the word and then actually say it. Now, on good days, I can do it for about a paragraph. But before that, I could clearly do it. I had 4 or 5 pages speeches that are 30 minutes long, and would be no problem. I would probably remember pretty much everything in the speech. I mean, I could have just bulleted it, but I would definitely have the entire speech, and I would have it there just as a fallback. You get, if you go off on tangents when you're speaking, you'll do that, and Trump does this all the time. He has a speech, but then he goes off in tangents, so his speech is probably 32 minutes long, and it ends up being 90 minutes. That's just how he is. I'm not like that, but I clearly will give more examples if I'm trying to prove my point or what I'm actually trying to get across in a speech. But I'm here, and I support Nick. All right, I realize that generation is being saddled with a lot of shit, and I don't care if people don't agree with what I have to say or they think because I'm going against Nick. I don't. It's not like I'll probably never meet Nick, and I only want him to do. Only want him to be successful, but we also have to be a little bit better than we're being right now, and I'm sure he's going to talk about it tonight, and I'll probably watch it, maybe. I mean, he likes to start like at 11 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning. Depending on how I feel, I might actually be up anyway, or just getting up. It happens when you get older. You can't necessarily sleep all night, or be awake all night. You can, but it's rare. My brain basically shuts down, and I'm talking right now after 2 o'clock, which is kind of hard for me. But I was up since I'm not really on the right schedule right now for me. Normally, I don't get up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a cold or whatever this is. So I just want to get back on here and just talk a little bit more about what I see, and we just lost a great man, and that's the biggest thing for me. A man that had a bright future, who was seeing stuff. He's saying things, but I get back to the point where people just want and continually just blame all Jewish people for what their government does. But these are the same people, not necessarily them exactly, but when we poll Palestinians or poll Muslim people in the Western world, and we ask them, would you harbor a terrorist, and 85% of them say they would. So that's this Western mindset that says we can't trust anybody over there, and I'm sure the Jews in Israel probably don't want to trust anybody over there anymore because they believe that Hamas is a intrinsic threat to them and their families. Even though these people, again, were basically cousins when it comes to the genetic lottery, they're all Semites, and their ancestors were probably married to each other. I'm sure that most people I'm talking about ethnic Jews, not the fake ones, but the ones that are actually in the area that look Semitic. They probably, if you take their line back, they probably will have a lot of cousins and stuff that are Palestinians or Syrians or whatever, Iranians. My issue's always been about the Israeli government, but this guy basically said this, that I defend pedophilia. I'm like, okay. All I can actually respond to that is that's a crazy thing to say. I've been talking about the satanic rituals that clearly point to that, and a lot of it is Jewish, or the bastardizing of their faith as we have it here in the United States with Catholics and Christians. There's different denominations, and some of them are really far out there, and we have rituals in this country. So it's not it's, okay. You want to defend Nick? He doesn't need your help. Nick is one of the greatest orator of his generation. He would absolutely destroy me in a debate, but I would sit down and talk to him about it. But the thing with all this is that I think Nick would be, well, it'll never happen. I think he would be respectful to me. Why wouldn't he be? I'm a supporter of his, you know. But again, he's not God. I gave my opinion on something. He's been this way for a while. I get it. I absolutely get it, and I said it in my video. But at some point, this is a good time for us to actually get together. So I said that before Charlie got shot and killed. As a Christian or a Catholic, he should know now is the time for us to get together. So I encourage Matt Walsh and other people on the right that are somewhat aware of the issues that we have, and that we realize that Israel itself, the government itself, is not our ally. But we should sit down and have these conversations, and that Nick should be included. But he can be on the outside if he wants that. If he wants that to be the person on the outside all the time. But that's not what I get. I've watched him probably more than most of the people that are going to comment on my videos. He wanted to be included, right? You know, he wanted to do all that stuff. He wanted to be. And you can tell that he's still upset about it. And I get it. You know, you feel like you've been jilted by your lover, whatever. You know, I just say that it's just a friendly advice from an older man, not a boomer, but an older man that just says at some point we have to get together. If Matt Walsh is going to allow that, I hope he will. I hope that we have this, and we sat down together and all this stuff, because as I said in my previous videos, all these guys are Christians or Catholics. Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, Brandon Tatum. And again, people are going to say you're going to compare Brandon Tatum to, because Brandon Tatum clearly looks like he's been bought now by Israel government. Okay. Nick. These guys are all Christians, Catholics. They believe the same God. I mean, Catholics are a little different than we are Christians. But when you get down to the end of the whole thing, it is what it is, right? Obviously, I don't know. You know, we'll find out. We all find out at the end. But I know I'm conflating Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes, but these guys were they're not allies, but they were never really enemies. And I'm sure that Charlie Kirk was somewhat grateful that Nick went so far to the left, to the right, and allowed him to talk about things. But Charlie, when you're actually talking about commentary, his was always with the biblical worldview first. And sometimes Nick kind of like loses that in his commentary, let's say. I mean, he talks about it, obviously. And when he really becomes serious, he talks about it as well, because this is also a guy that likes to game and do stuff like that. Sometimes you're not actually sure what he's being mad about or not mad about. You know, I still see the video of him, you know, while I was I didn't say that in that video about, you know, he's not standing up because he's like, you're never going to say anything. You're never going to do anything, saying that to Matt Walsh. And then people online basically responded to him and said, you're not doing anything either. And I'm like, but when he had the actual opportunity to stand up about who he is and what he believed, when the cop asked him, are you a white nationalist? He says, no, I'm Mexican. What does that mean? You've been saying forever that you're white. Again, I don't give a shit. I mean, we know there are Mexicans that are white, okay? It's usually the ruling class in Mexico are the white Europeans. And he is majority white. But it's just interesting that that was his claim to fame. and he's out there talking to cops. He could have just said, you know what? Sometimes people call me that. You know, I am what I am. He could have said I'm a paleo conservative, or he could just whatever. I identitarian, or not even respond to the cop. But when he was asked the question by authority, he kind of like caved a bit and said he's Mexican. So, which he is, but he's not. So, yes, but he's not. Is he American? Is he white man with some Mexican in him? You know, not that you have to sit there and tell the cop that, but his first thing when he heard someone called you a white nationalist, he said, "No, no, no, I'm a Mexican." Like somehow that the left has been saying, or the people on that, whatever that is, doesn't really care what the color of your skin is. They'll still call you a white supremacist. They'll call you a Jewish person a white supremacist. They'll call a black person a white supremacist. So it doesn't really make any difference. And I just thought at that point, and I guess he just went through some trauma there at his house. This guy was coming to kill him, right? So whatever. I don't know if that was then or after the girl came over. I don't know. But so I don't have any issues with that. I think it probably was because I know he had to go to jail because they thought he assaulted this woman. But fortunately, he had the video of it. But again, it's one of those things. People like Matt Walsh works for Jewish people, and Ben Shapiro, and we all understand what Ben Shapiro thinks about Jesus. Yeah, we do know this. It's probably isn't the best place for Matt Walsh to be. However, I don't think it's a bad thing that he's there. I think having somebody that looks at Jesus as God in a position that's run by Jewish people, I think it's probably a good thing. Now, if you think that Matt Walsh is compromised, and that's what this guy said in my comments, I don't think that's the case. I don't think that at all. I think that he knows a lot more about what the Bible says and what it means to be Catholic than most people that are commenting to me about this. Again, I'll have a spirited debate in my comments, but I did remove the one comment that said that I somehow support pedophilia and call me a boomer. I mean, you can call me a boomer. I don't care about that, but it's just interesting to me because I've probably 700 videos on here. I don't have them all out there because the shit I was talking about was not allowed. Before Nick ever even thought about shit like this, I was talking about stuff. And I've had things change my mind over the years. I was a big supporter of Israel. I believed everything. I think everything about the Holocaust I believed. I have Schindler's List upstairs. I thought that was the greatest movie of all time. Some of the other movies that talk about the Holocaust. And once you find out that there are so many movies about that talk about the Holocaust or indirectly have the Holocaust in it, we're talking thousands of them since I've been alive. And they run Hollywood, so this is something they continually push. And anytime something happens, they call certain things anti-Semitic. So I've been talking about this forever, okay? And I understand that Israel does influence our shit here in the United States. All I really wanted is that Nick has to take the win, that all the big time people on the right, all the influencers from Megyn Kelly to Charlie Kirk, the late great Charlie Kirk, Tatum, all of them have been taking his talking points and pushing it out there. And I just think at some point you take that win, and he's already. I mean, I've heard him recently say that he wants to kind of be in that, and I think you're going to hear that tonight. I really do. I think he's going to say that he wants to be involved with this. If he really wants to be a leader, because the Groypers are not good. His movement, based on the entire movement that he has created, will never be the majority in the country. It just won't. Now, the tenets of could be, but you can talk about truth to power and all that stuff, and you can say black crime and all that. It can happen. but you have to say, I have to have a solution for it. And Charlie's solution is basically God and the nuclear family. And that itself would have probably take care of about 80% of all our problems. If we had, if we could just stop from having sex before we get married, if we could just not glorify sex and pornography and all that stuff, if we fundamentally champion marriage and kids in all communities, it would make things a lot better. And yeah, obviously, if I had my way, I would want to overemphasize that white families should have more babies, just so we have a super majority like we used to have, because we built the country, and there's nothing wrong from us saying that we want to actually be back where we were before as a super majority in this country because we built it. This is our heritage, and fundamentally, the country is changing. And what was very disgusting about everything that's so it makes me feel so sorry is the fact that there was a man that was pushing most of those type of values. Now he's just like Tucker Carlson. They're never going to be. They're going to. It's a color blind meritocracy. Meritocracy. So they're at that one level. When I talk about 80%, that 20% that Nick says we should, that's going to be the hard part. But if you get people just marrying each other and have kids, eventually, because we're still 57, right now 57% of the population, and we keep having babies, we'll get that number back up. And the government can do things about it. They can promote that. They can give tax breaks. You can give stuff to first-time homeowners. You can say, well, we'll go to this part of the country. We're going to put factories or whatever here, and we're going to give you a 0% loan for your first house. They do it in the Jewish community. Most of them don't pay any mortgage tax. They pay 0%. So, if I buy a $300,000 house, I did, but my interest rate's at 3%, but I'm paying it off. The problem is if I just pay the interest rate on it, I'll be paying well over 200 million or almost 2 million on it. But if you had the ability to pay 0%, so you can pay it that $300,000 off, and if you're paying, if you just paid 1% or $1,000 for 300 months, what is that? Well, that's basically 25 years, right? And you could do that. You have the other money to go out and actually invest it and make more money. So those type of things need to be stopped. We need to encourage families in this country. I don't care where they come from, color wise, right? And Charlie talked about abortion, and I think he was a fierce leader on this. I don't think Nick really talked about that much. I mean, but this was something that Charlie always talked about, and he allowed it on. Well, he got on student campuses, and we saw a seismic shift in our young people because they knew that something was wrong. They knew that out there just fucking each other, and they know that they're all depressed 5 minutes later because that's not fulfilling. It might be at the moment, but it doesn't make you who you are. And that's what Charlie was as well. He was a mentor for men and for women as well. He told women, you need to expect more of your men. And men, you have to stand up. And people are like, oh, that's the boomer into you and all that shit because the family courts and all that shit. Well, all that can be changed. That can be changed. And the fact that we have all these courts, cameras in the courts now, you see what's happening. And it is changing. In some states, it's much more even now when you go in because women are no longer oppressed like they ever were. And they make as much or more than men do. So you just can't give, the older judges and stuff are no longer there. So, and there are a lot of women that are actually judges in that, and they think that women are, sometimes women don't think well of other women. They just don't. So, all of that can be changed a bit. I mean, I would get rid of no fault divorce unless there's a pattern of abuse by one of the two parents. You have to prove why you're divorcing somebody, and it should be like 10 times more if you have kids. We got to just stop saying there's nobody has any accountability. You got to just everybody has to be accountable. We're all adults, you know. But I mean, this video will go on forever. But I just want to go. I just say what I had to say. Again, this is good for me to get it out of me because I'm just feeling not great about this. Again, I didn't grow up. I was 3 years old. I don't remember any of that other shit. This to me is like a big, totally big thing to me. I remember Challenger. I remember landing on the moon. I was 4 years old, but I remember that. Uh, like I said, Challenger when that happened. Reagan getting shot. Elvis dying. Um, but actually see somebody getting shot like that in broad daylight. And I'm thinking back. I think this was the plan was all along. I think this is the scenario they wanted for Trump. They want Trump to be on there and getting blown up like that, and they almost got it. And then you see he doesn't die. Then you see the night that he wins the championship, he wins the presidency back, and then we will look at Charlie Cook, and he's joyous. And then one of his videos he said, you know, the reason why I was crying at the end of that is a lot of things, but one of them was because now I didn't have to worry about the Biden crime family to come after him because the DOJ was going after him for no reason. Just somebody he knew he was very influential, and in politics they will go after their opponents. So it's just, I don't know. I hope to God something's going to happen, but I don't know what that means. I just mean after all those people died, after Martin got shot and all that, it wasn't good in this country for a while. I don't think we're going to have the same thing because we're so apathetic. I don't think we'll do anything. But as of watching Clay Travis talk about this, and he was talking about his son, a 10-year-old son, earlier in the week. He said, "I'm going to go down. I'm going to hug him." And he said, "But you know what? He's just going to after a couple minutes, he's going to say, 'Dad, I don't need that anymore.'" And he said, "And you know, I just this week, every day I've been taking to work to school. I mean, this guy's got all this money he sold his out quick tick. So he's a multi-millionaire. So he has the ability, he can take his kids to school every day. He walks them to school. And his 10-year-old, he said, we're walking out to the crosswalk, and he pushed away my hand because I was going to hold his hand. And I've been doing this since he started. And he just put it away. He shipped it away. He said, 'Dad, I don't need that anymore.' And you just, as a father, you're just like, oh shit, that's, you know, yeah, okay. But he's like, Charlie will never get that. He'll never be able to do that for his son or his daughter. I said, so go down and hug your kids because you never know what's going to happen to you. And I'll tell you what, Clay Travis, who was a Democrat, liberal, voted for Clinton and Obama, changed his viewpoint, but still probably at the same level I am in certain things. He knows that it could happen to him because he goes out into public. So it's interesting to see what will happen to that. Or we're going to, is like Myron, one of the, I guess he's Sudanese, I guess, that he is part of the men's whatever that thing is that he talks about, how stupid women are and all that. You know, he's going to college campuses and stuff, or he goes out in public and talks to people. Is he going to still go out? And I said, Megyn Kelly was supposed to go with Charlie Kirk two weeks from now and do stuff. So, and they're trying to silence the right. And again, Charlie Kirk is not hard right. They're just not. He's biblical. If that's considered against God or against whatever. But I'm going to stop now. It's only 30 minutes. I said I could talk about this forever. It helps me to get it's not depression, but it's more like anxiety. I mean, part of me wants to go and get a gun. It's nice that it's raining, though. So, after I got my hitting bail today, maybe I won't have to water the lawn tomorrow. Okay. Just let me know what you think. If you stay on this long, I appreciate it. Just subscribe to me and share it if you want. If not, just thank you for watching. It's helpful to me, and I'm here for anybody. If you want to have a real conversation with me, I have no issue texting you guys or even taking a FaceTime or just talking to you guys who are somewhat upset about what's happened. People that are maybe in the movement talking about white identity or something like that. I am not in the KKK. I'm not a part of any type of hate group. My thing has always been we should have a place at the table and it should be respected. I'm tired of being the butt of all the problems. And they killed one of our great guys yesterday. So we'll just have to deal with what that is. And now we have a picture of the guy, apparently. We'll see if we can get him. And we'll talk about that when that happens. You guys have a good weekend. If I don't talk to you then, and again, I will talk about other things like soccer and everything in the next couple days. But you guys have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.